This is the fourth class of our Drop the Rock for the Listen, Love, Pray summer book study. And I'm so excited tonight to have my friend Stacey as the guest speaker. And she's just going to say wonderful things about how she has experienced God through working the 12 steps, and in specific this book, which she actually brought to my attention. Stacey, we met, what, 3.5 years ago, maybe, when she was in my father's house in Mount Airy, Maryland. And our team watched in amazement as God just helped this beautiful woman step into, well, her freedom, step into learning how to look through the Bible for wisdom and strength, learn how to pray. I mean, she has just gone up, and she gives all the credit to God, and we were witnesses, and it's just a beautiful thing. So Stacey, welcome, and go ahead and unmute yourself.
I was just sitting here thinking, like, normally I'm really, really nervous before I have to do this. Like when I go to Mount Manor, I'm like a shaking leaf. I'm like, but I'm definitely not. And I was like, I just like went over to my bed and I'm like praying and I'm like, Lord God, please just give me the words that I need tonight to be a tool and to inspire and to, just show all of you wonderful people that recovery is possible. And, God's grace is a wonderful thing, and I'm grateful for that and for the relationship that I have today. And, I do give all the credit to God, because before now, I definitely had no relationship. As a child, I was forced to go to church, because our parents just didn't want us in the house. So it was like their free time. So, it was like, we'll send the kids to church. And as a child, I was very fearful. Let me just put it that way. I just had it in my mind that God was like a punisher. And if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I was going to be cast into like this fiery pit called hell, and that's where I would be forever. So, I mean, at 7 years old, it's a little scary. And then as time went on, it was never a thing. I didn't go to church. I definitely didn't pray. When I did pray, it was like the foxhole prayers. It was when I was in trouble, well into my addiction, and in and out of jail. That's when I would pray, and I'd be like, please God, just get me out of here, with no intentions on changing. Right? Like, I just wanted to go home and continue living life the way I was, but like, please get me out of here. So I guess I'm just gonna, I'm gonna make the beginning part of this story short and sweet, because I don't like to really dwell on the ugly part of it, because the other side of this is, it's beautiful. And I pray and wish that so many others like me that suffer with any form of addiction, I wish that like they could get over this little, I call it a hump. If you could just get over the hump and see how beautiful life is on the other side, it's just crazy to me. And I tell people every day, I'm living my best life today. I'm the best version of who God made me to be today. So I grew up in a very dysfunctional family where addiction, it ran strong through generations and generations. And the one thing that I never wanted to be was my mom. I had huge resentments. Some part of me hated her. I blamed her for a lot of things. I blamed her for keeping us in a horrible household with an abusive stepfather. I blamed her and my dad for, being molested from the time I was 5, 6 years old until I was 12. I blamed them for like all the horrible things that ever happened to me. So, my heart was very cold when I started this journey, and I was okay with that. I was very, I don't even know how to put it today, but I was very foul-mouthed, and I was just, I did not care. I did not care what people thought. Um, Needless to say, I had a lot of growing up to do. And to be able to say that today is just crazy in itself, because I would have never admitted that 3 years ago. I knew everything, I knew best, and it was my way, or like I would fight it tooth and nail. So I married very young. I was 16 years old. I had 3 kids by the time I was 21. That person was, someone that I trusted. Again, I had no relationship with God, so he was my higher power. I lived for him. I learned this through step work. And men, and being able to manipulate them. Those are all part of my character defects. And I used men to get the things that I needed and wanted for a long time. And then when my addiction was at its worst, I definitely took advantage of the fact that I could manipulate and get whatever I wanted. So that's a huge character defect for me. So at 26 years old, at 23, my husband lost his job. Cocaine was introduced to our lives, and that opened the door. So from 23 until 26, we were doing a lot of partying. I went from what I thought then was like this perfect stay-at-home mom, to like, I'm partying all the time. I'm doing drugs. I'm very promiscuous. Definitely not, like, my wedding vows meant nothing. And yeah, that's where it started. So by 26, my husband and I split up, and heroin was introduced. So from that point, that's really when everything went downhill for me. I left my husband, and I just ran amok. I don't know, how close addiction touches your all's lives, like drug addiction. But it's very, very ugly. And I mean, any addiction itself is ugly, right? Because like, it controls us, it consumes us, and we're a slave to whatever it is that we struggle with. Drugs, however, they were they took, my husband was no longer the higher power, so drugs were, it was like every day, all day long. So it was men, drugs, very unsafe behaviors. I was running back and forth from the city to West Virginia, which is where I was born and raised. Very teeny tiny little small town. So everyone knew me. Everyone knew my family. I broke into my father's house and robbed him. Just things that I carried later a lot of shame and guilt for. So essentially, that's how I wound up in Frederick. I had gotten charges in Frederick, and I was at Marcy's choice. which is not a great place to be ever. But when you are sick coming off of drugs, it's definitely no place you want to be. So I had a wonderful girl who was a peer recovery specialist come and talk to me. And again, I just remember my attitude and me thinking that, I had this all figured out. I didn't need anybody's help. I could do this. And I had no problem with doing jail time. I was like, oh, I can do 18 months. It's not a problem. And that's what it was. I had no care in the world to get sober. I definitely did not seek a relationship with God until the judge and the prosecuting attorney decided that I had an extensive record and I was going to do no less than 8 years. At that point, I kind of looked at things a little differently, and recovery was never an option where I came from. We didn't have like a million inpatient programs to go to. I was 36 years old, a mother of 6. I had children that I hadn't seen in almost 2 years. And so the perspective changed. I was like, I've got to do something. So I took that deal and I went to a 28-day program. So this is where I had my big eye opener, and it was a song and a phone call that really did it. My daughter, because of, childhood trauma. So this is that great big, what is it called? Cycle, right? It's a cycle. And so, now my kids have childhood trauma, and, she suffers from depression and anxiety. And so she had sent me this song, and it's called You Say. So as I walked downstairs on like my first week at rehab, I hear this song playing. And the first time that I listened to this song, I literally listened to like 2 seconds of it. And I was like, oh, this is Maddie's stuff. And I kind of blew it off. I now know this was my first sign from God. Okay. And so I stopped and I listened to this song, and it was like a layer melted. Like that cold heart that I had carried with like so much hatred and resentment and just dark. I was a very dark person at that point. It was like a layer came off, and the tears just rolled. I cried and cried. And at that point, I wanted to talk to my kids, right? Because I haven't talked to them in over 18 months. So you get this small moment of clarity, and I wanted to speak to my kids. So I start calling and calling and calling, and no one will answer the phone for me. So as I'm calling, the anger is building. Again, another one of Stacey's character defects. Anger is my go-to emotion for everything, or it was. So I'm very angry by the time at the time 16-year-old daughter answers the phone. I'm very selfish and self-centered at this point. It is all about me. Why wouldn't you answer the phone? You knew I was trying to call. I needed to talk to you. I'm in rehab. I don't have access to the phone. It was I, and I didn't care about anything else. Her response to me was, good. Now you know how it feels. She said, now you know how it feels to just want to talk to your mom and she won't answer the phone. She was like, I needed you so many times and I just needed to talk to my mom and you couldn't answer the phone one time for me. So another layer comes down. I'm again in the bedroom on my knees, tears just falling. I felt like my heart was just squished at that moment. And every time I picture this moment, I see like this little bit of light coming through. And I'm just like, I feel like if it was a picture, that's what it would be. In the midst of like this darkness, there's one itty bitty light shining through. And it's like in that moment that I made the decision that I made. And I prayed like my first real heartfelt prayer. And I cried the entire time. On my knees. And at that point, I didn't even know. And I pray the same way today. It's always from my heart. I talk to God like he's sitting beside me. And I probably cry a lot of times, but I cried. And I'll probably get emotional here, but I surrendered. And I said, I can't do this anymore. My soul is tired. I miss my life. I miss my kids. And if you just give me this chance, I'll do whatever I have to. I'll try my hardest. And I meant that. I meant that from the bottom of my heart. I was going to do whatever I had to stay sober. And then, you know, if I failed, I knew like 100% that I had given it my all. And I can tell you, you know, 3 years into this, I've not stopped. It's definitely easier, but I fight every day. I pray every single day. I surrender every single day. And like I said in the beginning, you know, I'm probably the best version of who I was meant to be today. You know, I have a great relationship with all 6 of my kids. I see them regularly. We do all kinds of great stuff all the time. I have the most wonderful network of people in recovery. And I see life differently today. You know, I a year and a half into this finally decided to work the steps. I said, you know, I have a therapist, I have a sponsor, because I knew that I had been an emotional packer for years. There was a lot of childhood trauma. There had been a lot of, you know, being molested and beat and raped and, you know, a lot of things that I did myself that I was carrying a lot of guilt and shame over. And it just kept me very sick for a long time. And I had finally gotten to a point that I was ready to start healing. I was ready to trust God to get me through it, because I knew if anybody could, it would be him. And I prayed the entire time I was working these steps. There was many times I wanted to throw the towel in. I told my sponsor I didn't want to do it. It took me a month to get through one step. And just, you know, for the first time, like I knew I trusted the process. I trusted, you know, God. And I knew, I just kept telling myself, like, I didn't get here by myself. And I knew that without a doubt, the many, many times that I had tried to get sober before, I had 3.5 years sober. I didn't work a program. I didn't have a relationship with God. I did not work the steps. And ultimately I failed. Right. So after 3.5 years of my kids having their mom back and me doing everything that I thought made me a great mom, I still failed. And, looking back now, I know that it's because I just had no faith. I had absolutely no faith. Because when I trusted the process and I opened my heart up and I asked God to do it for me and with me, I've stayed sober. I don't have the cravings and the desire to use, and I haven't in a long time. I can tell you that my sister lost her battle in January, and through everything that we went through, because my sister committed suicide, at no point did picking up ever cross my mind. I was angry. I was definitely angry. But I have tools today. I have tools, and I have a bunch of great women that never left my side. I have this awesome prayer group that sent me a card. I had a card every day in the mail, and for the first time in my life, I felt okay, even in the midst of like all of this, just, it was again, chaos and turmoil and pain and suffering and hurt and like all of these things. Like, I was okay. So again, I was okay. And I have said this to my mom, who I like preach it to every week. I'm like, please. And I believe it full-heartedly. I was okay because I wasn't doing it by myself. And I know that. God got me through that because he knew he hears everything I say. I know that. I talk to him like he's my best friend, and I'm like, Lord, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this by myself. And like my faith, knowing that he's right there beside me, knowing that just because I can't see him doesn't mean he's not sitting right here with me, probably with his arm around me, because like that's my God. And that's what got me through. Knowing that, my sister was right there with him, arms around her, and she was okay. I was able to give a whole speech standing there, and the healing process has begun. So, I've gone through life. Life has happened in my sobriety, and faith that I never had until now has gotten me through. So all of that greatness out there. I have this wonderful sponsor too, who thank goodness is very spiritual, because people take different paths. Everyone's recovery is their own, and not everyone has the same higher power. So that being said, I worked the steps, and I tried to be extremely honest because I didn't want to fail. I don't have room for failure today. I made a promise to not just myself, and I intend to keep that promise, whatever that looks like. So every day, even when I don't want to, I get up and I literally get off the bed and like right on my knees. I recently started dating, and I was like, oh, how's he going to take with this? Probably should have figured out whether he was a spiritual type of fella. But I've known him for years. So I just figured he was, and I'm like, oh geez. So just a little side note, he's definitely okay with it. And I catch him like one eyeing me some mornings, and I'm like, is he praying with me or is he just laying? I think he's praying, just saying. It's nice. It's nice to have an adult relationship. But what's nicer is I know that if it doesn't work out, I'm okay today. Cause like he's not my higher power. It's nice. And I tell him that, I love him every day, but I definitely it's different. It's a different type of relationship today. I don't know how else to explain it. It's so weird to be able to love someone, to love your kids, to love, another human being, but to ultimately love and have like this great relationship with something and someone like that you can't see, right? It's just, I don't know how to explain it. So I love him, he's great. If it works out, fabulous. But I'm okay either way today. And that's like the best part. Before now, I would have totally fallen apart. The world would have ended. I'd have been on the floor. God, just kill me now. Because I worshiped them. They were essentially life for me. And it's just crazy to look at it and realize it now. So I told you it took a long time for me to finally be okay enough in my sobriety to work the 12 steps. They are what is the word? Very invasive. Like you've really got to dig deep and get all the junk that you've piled in. And I, again, was an emotional packer. So I had this huge drawer that was just shoved full of crap. So as I started peeling it all out, there were things that I did not want to have to relive. And it was really hard for me. But I was able to do it. I was able to get through it. And so we get to this section, the fourth step, that was like, it was supposed to be the hardest. My sponsor was like, you really need to make sure you're talking to your therapist. This is when we're going to do this. And I'm like, ew, I don't want it. That was not the hardest step for me. I can tell you that this self-awareness part was the hardest for me. Because that's when I literally wrote down all of the ugly. And it was like there in black and white, and I could see it, and I was like, ew. Just ew. It was not easy. I think Lucinda touched on the pride thing. It was very pride shattering to have to look at all of this junk and know like that's what it looked like for me. So I'm just going to share with you guys some of my character defects, and then I'm going to tell you kind of how I worked that step, because it's an action step, right? So it means we have to do, not just write it down and say it every day. So manipulative and controlling, codependence, people pleasing, anger and jealousy, victimization and dramatic, attention seeking and low self-esteem. So my sponsor and I could have gotten a better sponsor. So she says, we're gonna write a prayer for each one of your character defects. And we're gonna ask God. I don't know so much to take it because they never go away. So they're there, right? They're always there. you're just very much aware of them. And I think there's a part in the book where she talks about like the more you do it, it's like the more that I'm aware of the character defect as it's coming out. And I'm like, God, please. And I'll read you my little prayer. So let's just go with we'll go. Here's a good one. Attention seeking and low self-esteem. So as I'm going through my day, for whatever reason, one of these two character defects comes creeping out its little ugly head. And I find myself being an attention seeker. Now I've done that in many different ways. So can use your imagination. Like I said, it was a very ugly process for me, but attention seeking, low self-esteem. So as it's creeping out and I'm aware of it, I would say to myself, mind you, I had to memorize each one of these. Okay. So, and I'm pretty bad at it right now, but anyway, so the prayer is, Lord, help me see myself through your eyes. Help me focus on who you say I am instead of what others think. Your attention is all I need to seek. So every time I would find myself maybe putting a little extra shake in my hip because there's a whole bunch of construction guys over here, or you know, flipping my hair because like there's this great looking Italian doctor standing close, like whatever it looks like. I was bad. Okay. I am not even gonna lie. I would say, oh, I'm doing it again. And people probably thought I was crazy, but I'm like, Lord, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. Your attention is all I need. Please help me understand and see that. Just like, and that just being aware, you change the behavior. Like, you're not going to stand there and be aware of a bad behavior and continue the bad behavior, because then you're going to be filled with guilt again. You're going to be like, you're going to have to say a whole new prayer for that one. So, I mean, I already pray 500 times a day because like, I'm not perfect. I mess up all day, every day. And I'm like, Lord, I know you just saw that. I know you saw that. Please. It is serious. I know. Do I need to hurry? Okay. So, again, with the people pleasing, it was the same thing. It was, you know, Lord, help me be less caught up on pleasing others, but focused on pleasing you. Show me where to draw the line when dealing with others. Lord, guide my heart to know when to help and when not to. Again, it's an action. It's an action step. It's these character defects are always going to come up. You know, you're just much more aware of them, and the more that you take action, the less they're going to come up. I mean, they're not all going to go away forever. I mean, you can say all the prayers in the world and, you know, you can surrender and give it to God every single day. But there is not one person that's going to drive down 70 from Martinsburg, West Virginia, and not get angry at some point. This is what I mean. So at that moment, I'm like, Lord, please, I'm so angry right now. I could just run something over. They're going to continue to come up. It's how you react that matters. I definitely try really, really, really hard not to have a reaction today. Because again, anger was my go-to. I get angry, it gets very bad. I'm a yeller and it's ugly. Just one more thing for me to pray about. But this is what worked for me. It's continued to work for me. Today I think I have an awesome relationship with God. It might not be like everybody else's, but he's the judge. I'm not really worried about it. And I get up, I pray, I live my best life today. If I'm not having the best day, I just stop and restart it. It takes 2 seconds to stop and pray and be like, God, life is falling apart right now. Just help me start over. And I have to do that some days because I work at the hospital, and I'm around negative, just negative energy all the time. These people are sick and they're in the worst of their addiction. And, I'm there like this little light, and I'm like, look, God is real, and if you just give it a chance, they probably think I'm crazy, but I'm like, it can happen for you too. More or less. I mean, I have a lot of great people that I get to work with. I try to stay in the middle of this. And so far, I'm a little over 3 years. Life is great. I've been extremely blessed in that time. I'm in college, and it's a nice reminder when I can pull this out and look back and be like, thank you for being there. Thank you for helping mold me into the woman that I am today, gently, because he was super gentle in his molding, because I was kicking and screaming the entire time.